The ozone hole and environmental pollution. Here, we must address the phenomenon of the ozone hole and environmental pollution from the perspective of the simulation method and the theory of probabilities, to examine the actual reality that exists and what will result from this phenomenon in the near future. A few years ago, scientists began discussing the ozone layer, which affects humans and life on Earth. People also started talking about the importance of the ozone layer in protecting them from harmful radiation over Antarctica. The ozone layer is very thin, with a thickness that would measure just a few millimeters if compressed. It is located at an altitude between 20 to 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface, meaning it occupies a space in the atmosphere estimated to be 30 kilometers wide and weighs 3,000 million tons. In the early 18th century, humans began to dig for coal buried within the Earth and burn it to benefit from the energy stored within. The current rate of coal consumption is 4 billion tons per year, increasing annually. This has resulted in a change in the composition of the atmosphere, contrary to what happened in the past. When coal burns, it absorbs oxygen from the atmosphere and releases carbon dioxide into the air. In this combustion process, each carbon atom requires 2 oxygen atoms to burn, producing carbon dioxide and thermal energy. This means that when 12 grams of carbon burns, it consumes 32 grams of atmospheric oxygen. If 4 billion tons of coal are burned annually, it is accompanied by a decrease in atmospheric oxygen by approximately 11 billion tons and an increase in carbon dioxide by 15 billion tons, which goes into the atmosphere. The natural result of this is a severe reduction in oxygen levels and the depletion of the ozone layer. The ozone layer, which derives its existence from this gas, has developed a hole as a result. At the beginning of the 20th century, oil exploration began, and burning oil has the same effect on the atmosphere as coal. It consumes oxygen and increases carbon dioxide concentration. The world's oil reserves are estimated at 2,000 billion barrels, consumed at a rate of 20 billion barrels annually, with an increase of up to 5% per year. Ozone is the silk mantle that shades us and protects us from deadly cosmic rays and burning ultraviolet rays, which carry the risks of death and cancer within them. A few years ago, scientists discovered that this silk mantle, or the ozone layer, began to erode, and the rays of death started to seep in, threatening to destroy us. This disruption in the ozone layer occurred due to our disruption of environmental balance and the gases released by our factories into the air, including sulfur, carbon, and chlorofluorocarbons. These gases eat away at the ozone layer like insects devour book pages. As carbon gases accumulate in the atmosphere, temperatures rise, the polar ice melts, filling the oceans and encroaching on coastlines, drowning ports. Deserts, driven by increasing heat, also advance and consume green lands. Pollution is not limited to atmospheric pollution alone. It is compounded by other factors such as rising groundwater levels, poor sewage systems, and increased humidity. Despite scientists' warnings about the widening ozone hole in our skies and the terrifying consequences of the climate change affecting Earth, we continue, all over the planet, to use materials that contribute to this hole's expansion. Scientists are currently warning that the rising Earth's temperature will cause widespread floods that could submerge many islands and vast land areas, with entire countries potentially disappearing from the face of the Earth within the next 40 years due to rising sea levels. They also warn that nature will become poorer, uglier, and more brutal due to the shortage of grains and food supplies. Scientists predict that the Earth's temperature will rise between 1 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit over the next 30 years. 3 scientists from China have stated that China is heading towards extinction in the next 100 years due to desertification, drought, and rising temperatures. Recently, scientists held a conference under the supervision of the United States, where alarm bells were rung about a devastating climate catastrophe that threatens billions of people due to rising global temperatures and dangerously high pollution levels. While scientists were urgently warning that time is no longer on humanity's side and that we all need to engage in a global war to save Earth from the destruction caused by pollution, the major world powers' politicians entered into deep disagreements and complexities regarding how to address this crisis. As expected, the conference ended without taking any urgent or emergency decisions to reduce the toxins that threaten Earth's climate. Despite being responsible for about a quarter of the world's industrial pollution, the United States refused to make any industrial commitments or concessions that might affect its economic growth. During the same conference, President George W. Bush stated, "We cannot improve the climate at the expense of our economic growth." Bush's attempts to procrastinate and cast doubt came at a time when government scientists in America confirmed that with each year humans delay banning the chemicals that destroy the ozone layer, the process of reviving Earth's climate will be delayed by 3.5 years. However, the gap continues to widen day by day between what scientists are saying and what politicians want.